welcome back to Two Who's Review. I'm Alex,
I'm Fitz.
and this is the first in a series of special episodes leading up to the 60th anniversary specials of Doctor Who, which is very exciting to say.
Oh,
This
I
first
can't
one
believe.
today, I know, right? We've made it another 10 years. This first episode, we will be sort of doing a similar type of thing that we did for The Power of the Doctor last year. We're going to be taking a look at the footage we have so far for the 60th anniversary specials, as well as any other announced news, and sort of analyze what we have, see if we can figure out what's going on. And then right at the end of the episode, we'll be making 5 predictions each, just like we did last time. The other person will assign each prediction a point value for how likely / unlikely it is to happen. And then when we're watching the 3 specials in about a month or so, we'll be able to see who got more right and who wins this little game that we play.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump into, so the bulk of today's episode is going to be looking over the official trailer that we recently got. For us, it was about 2 weeks ago. For you listening to this, it's probably closer to 4. Before we do that, though, we do have other stuff that was announced long before that I feel like we should very quickly recap.
Yeah, sure.
Before we jump into the trailer, because there's stuff in the trailer there's stuff that's been announced rather that hasn't been brought up in the trailer. Before that, however, really quick, we've seen the trailer a couple of times for the purposes of this episode, as well as just watching it when it came out. What are your initial thoughts?
I'm quite intrigued. I want to say I'm slightly surprised how sort of intense and kind of heavy it got, but that tracks with I think quite a lot of RTD's era, in particular the season closes. Things always get quite full on, and I mean these specials that we're going to see, they're basically a mini series, so it is 3-act structure. It's going to have a finality to it because it's meant to be a lead into Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor. So I was a little bit surprised how intense it got, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, it really shouldn't be all that surprising. Given again what RTD's history with the show has been. It looks pretty good. It looks interestingly directed, which is really neat to see. A lot of exciting, sort of explosions and action sequences, which would be pretty neat. It's always great to see, the Doctor and Donna back together again.
Absolutely.
I'm very excited for Miriam Margolyes as Beep the Meep. That's going to be great.
Certainly, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's something about watching this trailer, isn't there? It feels a lot like a movie trailer.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're definitely, I think, playing up the cinematic quality, and we're living in an age now, I think, where in terms of the visual style, the line between TV and movie has been very much blurred over the last 20 or so years.
Yeah.
But
especially with streaming television,
for
that becoming
sure.
so much more popular, and that leads pretty neatly into the fact that starting with these specials, Doctor Who will begin dropping on Disney Plus worldwide.
Yes.
Britain, I think, will still get it on BBC One.
Or the BBC iPlayer or something, or whatever.
Yeah, it'll be BBC One for the UK and Ireland. But at the same time, for other countries, it'll drop on Disney Plus, and then I think then Great Britain and Northern Ireland get Disney Plus uploads about a week or so afterwards to keep the tradition of BBC Doctor Who alive, which I think is good.
Sure.
For us, however, it means that we get to watch these from the source, from a source at least, in the highest quality possible, which in the past hasn't always been a possibility. I think they said that they were going to start releasing past Doctor Who on Disney Plus as well. Whether that means from 2005 or the classic series remains to be seen.
I really hope they do. The classic series would be very useful, just having a library of hopefully decent quality transfers of them.
Oh yeah, he's hoping.
Hmm.
But you mentioned the directing.
Yeah.
And you highlighted that you thought it looked really really strongly directed.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Well, that's not really a surprise because one of the directors of one of the episodes is Rachel Talalay, or Rachel Talalay. I don't know how you pronounce her name. But she was responsible for several of the best directed episodes of Doctor Who in the late Moffat era,
Mm.
including Heaven Sent,
Mm. Yeah.
which, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
so happy she's back.
Yeah.
She is an incredible director. She also directed the last few Capaldi episodes from World Enough a Time
Mm.
all the way to Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah.
She's such a talent, and I'm so happy that they've got her back.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I wasn't aware she directed those episodes specifically, but that's actually starting to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And it's another uh, a small cog in the previous regime of Doctor Who that is being restored. We've both made reference in the past to the fact that Murray Gold is back in the composing stand, making new music for the show
Great.
once again, which I am so happy about that.
Yeah. So
I mean, Murray Gold was the one constant from 2005 all the way to 2017 when Moffat
yeah.
left. And look, I'm not even saying that like the music in the Chibnall era was bad. I just don't have any opinion on it whatsoever. It has not left any impression on me.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's going for a very sort of slick modern sci-fi feel, and that's also reflected, I think, in some of the direction even of the Chibnall era. There's a lot of
Yeah.
long takes and things like that. But the problem with that,
it's music that feels like more at home in something like Broadchurch, where the music is really only there for like
for
background,
atmospherics.
for atmospheric. But I really miss Murray Gold's huge, bombastic, like glorious melodies. His Gallifreyan theme, his Cyberman motif. Every single time he scores the Daleks, he scores them wonderfully. And I don't know if it's he is back for the 14th series as well, not just for the specials.
Yeah.
Which is fucking great.
Goodness. Yeah, that's gonna be great. And you like it, and the thing is, like with the Chibnall scores, I'm not sure who it was who did them, but the problem with them is because they're trying to be kind of slick and modern, they're sort of relying on much more of an ambient feel, and that's fine. But it doesn't. I don't think it suits Doctor Who that well.
No.
I think it's even if you argue that not a lot of the, maybe not a lot, but some of the classic series themes and scores for the different stories, even if they're not like super memorable, they're more unique than just pure ambience, right? And sort of generic sort of bass stings every now and then. At least even in the John Pertwee era, don't get me wrong, that the scores are insane, but at least they're trying to really do something and make really kind of interesting melodies with them. So the point is, it is really good to see that we're sort of getting back to that, and hopefully we're going to have some classic Doctor Who bangers. I'm very excited for that.
We'll get to casting in just a moment, but I want to look at some of the other production stuff for 60th anniversary specifics before then. So I'm not sure if you saw this. You probably did, and it's been really sort of under the radar since. But in about March of this year, they announced that there was going to be a multi-platform Doctor Who story / experience that would be told over several months through things like Doctor Who Magazine, Big Finish, Titan Comics, and various other things called Doomsday.
Yeah,
starring Bruce Kempner. And I remember when it was first announced, it got a big backlash, and which is it stars like Suze Kempner, who is let me just double check, English comedian, stand-up comedian actress, but mainly she's a woman, so she's so of course there was backlash on the internet over this, and I think a lot of people, besides that, I think a lot of people like. This was built up before its announcement as like a big 60th anniversary thing, and the fact that it didn't really like follow on from the David Tennant tease that we had at the end of Power of the Doctor, I kind of get some of the negative response, at least. I mean, certainly I was excited for a big announcement, and then when I saw it was this, I was like, okay, that might be cool. I'm not gonna involve myself in it because it doesn't really
Yeah.
interest me. But I guess that's something cool that they can do to like tie together a lot of the extended media stuff into one continuous story.
Yeah.
For the 60th, it might as well happen, but like it's just something that happens in the background, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, having that sort of nasty reaction from the fan base, I want to say that's a surprise. I'm not going to, but
Mm.
yeah, that's quite disappointing. And what's the name of the actor again?
Suze Kempner.
Right. Because I don't think I've seen anything she's in, but based on those trailers, I actually really liked her. She was kind of weird and fun and kind of strange. So, I haven't engaged with any of that sort of extra sort of media yet.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
at
but
some
I
point, it would
mean,
be interesting for me to dig into.
yeah, I mean, at the very least, it seemed like an interesting enough premise.
Yeah. You just wonder if could they have married it more with the 60th anniversary or the next season, I suppose.
Sure, I think there's the danger of if you do tie it in too dramatically to the mainline TV storyline, you then have people complaining about that, going, okay, so now we have to buy all this extra other stuff in order to like get the full experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah. But speaking of extended media, from May to October of this year, so this might still be happening, it might have finished by now. There was a Big Finish 60th anniversary audio drama which featured the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors.
Wow.
And it was called Once and Future. There's going to be another release November of next year, which is interesting. Again, I haven't heard anything about it before this point, so it just seems like extended media is just doing their own stuff throughout the year.
Yeah. The extended media is always doing its own stuff. I mean, Big Finish puts out a number of I think news stories every year, really. So you've just kind of it. It's one of those things where it is genuinely an extra. Like you shouldn't feel, I think, obliged to, work your way through it because there is so much of it. But it's always great to have it there in the background because you never know when you're going to get a hidden gem.
Yeah.
Every now and then. But it is what it is, I suppose.
Yep, and the last thing is something that when you're listening to this will have already happened, but for us it's in our future. So that's a bit of time travel. On the 15th of October, BBC Radio 2 broadcast a thing called Doctor Who at 60, a musical celebration. And it's going to be a radio concert featuring several themes from
Nice.
the modern year of Doctor Who. But a big feature of that is that during this musical celebration, they will release the new theme music that will accompany the 60th anniversary specials.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
really exciting.
I read that and that got me keen. I'm
Yeah.
obviously excited to hear like they say here it's going to feature themes from the modern era of the program. What they mean is the Murray Gold era.
Yeah.
Of the
Oh,
program.
yeah. No, let's be clear. I mean, even like celebrating 60 years. Yeah, like I would also love to hear some classic themes because there are a couple that are fairly memorable. There's the Cyberman theme that cropped up in at least two stories. Some of the Seventh Doctor music themes, which are good, but like we know what they're talking about. We know they're talking about the Murray Gold era. Let's be very clear about that.
Of course, yeah. So now let's discuss some of the 60th anniversary specials specifically. Something that we got a while ago in a separate trailer is the names of the 3 episodes. Episode 1 is called The Star Beast, which is almost certainly referring to Beep the Meep.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
actually.
we'll get into this as the trailer progresses, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's going to be a big factor. Episode 2 is called Wild Blue Yonder.
Yeah,
And most confusingly of all, episode 3 is called The
the
Giggle,
giggle.
which I have no idea what that could be referring to. Wild Blue Yonder, I have some kind of idea. I imagine it's referring to Donna rediscovering, the extent of the universe and the beauty of it through the 14th Doctor's eyes. But The Giggle, clueless.
Yeah, that was very strange. Like, and it is interesting, kind of refreshing because there are a number of Doctor Who stories, particularly in the classic era, which tend to be a bit generic. It's blank of the blank often.
Yeah.
So it's kind of good that they're Why are you hurting my cuff?
I was thinking the same thing. It's over. We don't have to. We don't
Yeah.
have to deal with it anymore. Or at the very least, we don't have to deal with it again until like years and years from now when we catch up to that era for the podcast. That's when we can think about it again. But for now, we can leave it in the past.
Yeah. So, yeah, interesting story titles because the giggle in particular that really surprised me. That's such a strange thing, but I guess with the toy maker because he's a bit of a trickster god sort of figure, that makes sense, I
Yeah.
suppose. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, speaking of which,
Mm,
let's discuss that for a moment. It was about
sure.
almost a year and a half ago that they
Mm,
announced Neil Patrick Harris was coming to these specials as the villain.
mm,
But it was only recently that they confirmed what most of us suspected is that he'd
yeah.
be playing the toy maker,
Yeah.
who hasn't been seen since 1966.
Yeah.
That's a very deep reference. I remember
Well,
when the 50th anniversary was coming up and people heard the Zygons were going to play a part. That was also a classic series villain that hadn't made it a recurrence in New Who for some time. This far exceeds that in terms of
oh yeah,
recency.
sure. In fact, I mean, and the fact that it's one of the supposedly lost stories would probably make it even sort of further in people's memories, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um, Now, speaking of that, though, I actually went ahead and listened to the audio recording of
the
the
Celestial
Celestial
Toymaker.
Toymaker last
Interesting.
night.
Okay.
And that has somewhat influenced some of my notes that I've written here, particularly with
Okay.
my predictions. Um,
Oh, okay.
and we'll get into that because there's a very interesting conversation that takes place between the Doctor and his two companions, Stephen and Dodo. Yes, that's her name.
Great.
Um, which sort of it makes me suspect certain things about this story,
Hmm.
and I think maybe even confirm some suspicions that I had before I'd listened to that audio. So,
Right.
um, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Sure. We'll see how that impacts when we go through this trailer.
Yeah,
'Cause
sure.
I'm not sure if that aligns with anything or if there's stuff you have to mention.
I think it does a little bit, but we'll get into it.
But yeah, it's interesting. Because it really seems like these specials are pulling from really a whole lot of different avenues of
Mm,
the Doctor Who lore, right? We
yeah.
have this main villain coming from the classic series. We have characters returning from the modern era. And
Mm,
then we have subsidiary or secondary antagonists who have only ever appeared in extended media,
yeah.
with Miriam Margolyes as Beep the Meep.
Hmm.
First of all, insane casting. Not in the sense of Miriam Margolyes are how obscure. No, but Miriam Margolyes, like that's a big name,
Yeah.
and you give her Beep the Meep.
Yeah. I don't know
Hmm.
how, because Beep the Meep in the trailer isn't shown to be particularly, verbal.
No,
So I don't
yeah.
know how that's gonna, translate. But yes, I was admittedly a little bit surprised when I heard that it was Miriam Margolyes as
Well, that, it makes me think that
Beep.
that Beep is going to be a bit more sort of comedic because we know that Miriam can do that. Um, I have the Wikipedia page of Beep the Meep.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I'm glad you've got it, but that's the thing. Like you say, he'll likely be more of a comedic figure. That may be true, but I think they'll probably explore a little bit more nuance and even kind of a darkness with him because, and again, we'll get into this in more detail later. But he's galactic war criminal in the
Well,
comic
yeah,
books, so
yeah. That's the main thing. I know there might be people listening to this who have no idea what the hell we're talking about right now.
mm,
But Beep the Meep and his pursuers, known as the Warriors,
mm,
are in this special. We see both of them in the trailer, I think. We see Beep the Meep quite prominently, but then we see a
mm,
lot of soldiers, it looks like, hunting him, and I assume those are the Wrath Warriors.
yeah,
And Beep is a long-term intergalactic criminal and terrorist, I want to say, who
mm,
is incidentally commonly referred to as the Star Beast.
yeah,
So there's episode one's title, pretty much
yeah,
locked in. It's referring to Beep.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, it's fascinating that like, and especially given the rogues gallery element of Power of the Doctor. I know I said I wouldn't bring it up, but it's a big anniversary special celebration. We haven't seen any Daleks, we haven't seen any Cybermen, and by all accounts, they probably won't be in this.
Mm.
Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but
No, I don't either.
it's just fascinating the pulls that Russell T Davies has taken, and it makes me really think that he's thought this story through.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be
I
really
think
easy to just like if all he wanted to do was create a big like background battle kind of thing that can trigger Donna's memories, which I assume is what's going to happen. Then he realistically, like, if he wasn't putting much thought into it, he could have just chucked in some, I don't know, some Tarans or, I don't know, just throw the Ice Warriors in again for no reason. But the fact that he's specifically chosen these characters really makes me think that he's thought this through, and that actually makes me feel a lot better about Donna being back, because there is the danger that he pulls a Rose and brings back a character after their ending, and then in doing so makes that ending not so great anymore. Because I know that is a complaint that people have about the end of Series 4, how the fact that Rose gets a human doctor to live with kind of makes her original ending less emotional as a result, because it all works out in the end.
Yeah.
And there's a danger that it might happen with Donna this way, but I don't know. I think it's still gonna be as satisfying on a rewatch of Series 4
Yeah, I agree.
with
I
this in mind.
think, as you say, given the fairly sort of wide and interesting places he's sort of pulling from, I do think RTD has thought this through quite a lot. He's making a lot of very calculated risks, like the fact that you've got a very old villain, but an entirely new villain that's only in the extended universe. It makes me think he's really sort of, as you say, sort of thought all of this through. So I think it is very exciting, and I know I've said this before with other elements with RTD's writing, but I think if there's a writer I could trust with taking these risks, I think it would be RTD.
Certainly, yeah.
Because I know, like, because we've even said some of the RTD scripts we've looked at already, they're a little bit hit and miss.
Certainly,
Even the ones that we have that have elements that we really enjoy, they're not hugely consistent.
I
But
mean,
I
even
think,
looking at it even more negatively than that, my lowest rated story that we've ever looked at currently is a Russell T Davies story. Of the episodes we've looked at for the podcast so far, he has produced by far my least favorite. But I'm still really happy about this.
yeah, for sure, and I think he he has a both a respect for the show and what it can say and what how it can make an audience feel, but he also is I think he's an innovator, and I think he not only is he willing to take these risks, but he has the writing chops. I mean, I think he did to a considerable extent even during his run, but I think especially now after all this time, I think he's really got the writing chops to sort of pull all these risks off, which I'm really excited to see, honestly.
Well, it also makes me feel better about Russell T Davies coming back in the first place. Because I know
Yeah.
when we first heard the news, there was the danger of, well, is this just a hasty course correction by the BBC after Chibnall era didn't do so well? And is
Yeah.
Russell T Davies coming back against his will with no creative juice in the tank to keep Doctor Who going? But again, these are not decisions that someone with no creativity left in the tank for the show
No.
would make.
No.
These are the decisions of someone who has had time away and has had time to really think about what he wants to do with the show.
Yeah. It's purely by the fact of how bold these decisions are. You think like there's no way that like a rookie would take these sorts of risks. So it is quite exciting, I think.
Yeah. Also, something that doesn't appear in the trailer that we would be remiss if we don't mention that these specials will make the final on-screen appearance of Bernard Cribbins.
Mm,
He will appear as Wilfred Mott, presumably not in as big a capacity as he was originally going to, because I think he passed during filming. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's only in like our scene, but
Yeah.
you better believe that's going to be the best scene of the whole thing.
It would have to be pretty special. I can
Especially
imagine.
now, like, but even before then, like any scene with Wilfred in it is going to be the best. Because even when I think back to, like, as we've discussed briefly, maybe not on the podcast, but David Tennant's previous final story, The End of Time, is a mess tonally. It's across its 2 episodes, it has very different things it's trying to do. It's going for different tones, it's trying different things, and not all of it works. But every single scene that Wilfred Mott and the 10th Doctor exist in together is beautiful.
Yeah.
And is among the best written Doctor Who that has ever existed.
Yeah. No, honestly, as a fan of both classic and New Who, yeah, I'd be pretty comfortable saying that. It's the scenes themselves, like, they have a real weight to them. You really feel like they matter, which is funny because, as you say, End of Time, a little bit inconsistent, a lot of it, particularly in that first episode, very, very silly. But when it gets to those serious moments, it's like I really do believe it's worth going through all of that silliness, even if it doesn't all pay off, just to get to those moments, because they really leave an impact. I think so. As you say, I don't know where they'll place a scene like this, but I think almost inevitably are going to have some sort of big emotional scene with Wilfred and the Doctor, maybe saying goodbye or something like that. So I think that's almost a guarantee at this point.
Well, just another thing is, like, I've seen a lot of people watch Doctor Who. Like, I'm one of the people that likes to go onto the reaction videos on YouTube for like full series that I like to watch and watch people. For me, that's a nice way of recapturing a first time watching something, which is an experience none of us can have a second time. You know, alongside when you're sitting down to watch something with someone who has never seen it before, like when I sat through and watched it with my family several years ago. And I think that like, people have their favorite doctors, people have their least favorite doctors. Some people think certain doctors are overrated. Some people think certain companions are overrated. No, there is no like universally beloved doctor, because even the best, like Tom Baker and David Tennant, have their naysayers. Similarly for the companions, like, everyone loves Rose Tyler except for me. I genuinely think there is not a single person who has seen Doctor who would not die for Wilfred Mott.
Yeah, I mean, he on a surface level, it's the fact that he's just a really nice guy, but there's a lot more to it than that. He's written in such a way that he's so endearing, but there's a lot of, I think, nuance there. I mean, when his backstory starts to kind of creep in, it's really quite effective. And when he's in a scene, particularly with the Doctor, even though they're from two really totally different worlds, quite literally, there's a wonderful kind of understanding between them, and I think for those reasons, and probably more, really, it's really hard not to like Wilfred, I think.
And I'll tell you right now, if anything bad happens to Wilfred in these specials, the BBC is getting burnt down.
Look, I think, yeah, I think even if, like, I don't know, maybe, well, the whole world really will probably be in a sense of danger, but yes, I don't think they're going to give any kind of super dark, pointless, mean-spirited kind of ending for Wilfred. That would be a very, very big mistake on the show's part.
I mean, part of, like, even if something like that does happen, I take comfort in knowing it was written before he died. Because there's no way that Bernard Cribbins died and then they go, well, we can take advantage of this. Let's kill off Wilfred in the story as well. No, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. No. And I imagine, even if there were plans to do that before he died, I honestly think they would have changed them. To
potentially, yeah.
It feels like something that RTD would do.
It just depends on how important to the rest of the narrative that would have been. Because it depends if that death happens to be like a really important, like, either character moment for Donna or the Doctor, or some plot moment that, like, impacts the rest of the story moving forward. It's a little difficult to write around it, because you can't do the same thing with Donna's mum, for example. You can't make that substitution because I don't think it has the same impact.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, well, like with Doctor Who, you can do almost anything. So maybe they will sort of retroactively change stuff, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, I do think they're going to treat Wilfred as a character and Bernard Cribbins' memory with respect, and um, I think we can rest in the comfort that they'll pull that off quite well.
Certainly, yeah.
And I'm sure when it gets to the end, maybe they'll have a couple of dedications to Bernard Cribbins and maybe even Michael Gough, and we're gonna sit
Mm.
there and we're gonna be crying because it's gonna be emotional and beautiful and all of that.
Oh yeah, no, I have like 1-to-1 odds that at least one of these episodes ends with in memory of Bernard Cribbins. There's no way it doesn't
Oh,
happen.
to be sure.
Um, everything else, all the other casting stuff is stuff that is in the trailer. So let's jump into the trailer now, I guess.
Yeah,
We're
sure.
going to be going through this, maybe not shot for shot because there's quite a lot of shots here, but we're going through this really slow speed, pausing occasionally to discuss important stuff that happens or that we think is important to discuss.
Mm.
I know you're
So
taking a lot of notes.
yeah, so I do. I've got a lot of notes here. I did go and break down not literally every shot, but
Yeah.
almost every shot. So what I'll do is, um, and I'm certainly not going to read these out in full because, as you can imagine, they get kind of rambly. But
Sure.
I'll go through and just sort of try and speed through some of the highlights of the notes, of each note.
Sure.
If at any point it's really starting to drag, like, you just let me know. And I assume you've also got your own material we can draw on as well.
A little bit. I haven't gone through and written much down. I'm basically just going
Mm.
to take this, apart from a couple of things, I'm just going to take this largely reactionary. If I see anything that I have to go, okay, yeah, is this
Yeah,
worth
yeah,
talking
sure.
about? I might let you lead the discussion then, since you're coming at this from a more
Sure.
structured standpoint.
Yeah, I'm just going to
Unless you want me to like help narrow it down a little bit for you.
um I'll try and take you through it, but again, like, if
Sure.
it's dragging a little bit, or if there's certain things you want me to focus on, you just let me know if you want
Okay.
to keep on going. Um so we've got, I'm just trying to look through here because I wrote down the shots that are even at the very beginning, the trailer of the trailer, so to speak.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
can you just remind me again what the first shot of the actual trailer is, just so I
Yeah,
can.
it's a landscape shot of London with the Shard in the foreground.
Yes.
It's sort of like an
Yep.
evening shot and everything's lit up.
Yep. And is that the bit where Donna's narration begins?
Yes.
I think it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So it's basically like just London's sort of skyline. Nothing terribly remarkable about that. She's
No.
relating, some backstory.
It's
And
basically catching us up on where Donna is at the moment.
sorry.
It's basically just catching us up on Donna.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Continues. She's talking to somebody. We don't know who it is, but we can basically guess it's her mum. Her
It looks like her
similar,
mum, yeah.
similar hair color, similar haircut. Um. So yeah, again, nothing terribly remarkable there. It's just kind of great to see Donna, coming back.
Mhm.
So next we've got the Doctor running through a building. The camera, tracks with him as he jumps through a hole in the wall, and there's a lot of smoke and dust around the hole. I think is likely it's been made recently.
Yeah.
Um, and he seems to be going through a interesting blue tinted room that's shown in the trailer of the trailer shots, and I
Yeah, yeah.
think it's got this is like a major location. So I think um wherever that is going to play quite a significant part because we see it crop up a couple more times in this trailer as well.
Yeah.
Um
Might it be the, is, Beep the Meeps disguised spaceship that the
it
Rotharories are looking for? It could be that, do you reckon?
it probably is because I've written here in other places of these notes as well that it's some kind of alien spacecraft. There's a shot actually in the very, very beginning of the trailer, a brief one of it where Donna's raising her hands and she's got like a weird bit of alien tech behind her, and I thought,
Mhm.
oh, maybe that's like something Unit has captured or something, but I think now it's probably going to be Beep's spaceship.
Yeah.
I imagine. Uh, yeah. So, excuse me. So next we've got like the narration from Donna continues, and then we've got a sudden moment of recognition dawning on sorry. Yeah, dawning on Donna's face. So, like, you wonder, is this where she meets the Doctor again, or has she simply been, shocked by something like an explosion? We don't really know. I don't think that really reveals a lot, but
Not
could be
really.
anything. The next, the Doctor appears screen right, peering from behind something. The lighting in the room plus the cables near the Doctor could mean it's the same place with the weird sci-fi text. So again, it probably is Beep's ship.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
yeah. So yeah, I think it's probably that same location. Next, we've got Donna saying, "What have I lost?" And just some rapid shots of the runaway bride. Again, I don't think that's terribly remarkable. Maybe thematically, maybe it'll be about memory and I think as you've brought up before, what does the Doctor leave behind, things like that. So that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So then there's a shot of the Doctor staring at something that's above camera. That again could be about anything. There, I've got here. What have I got? A strange small alleyway that the Doctor materializes in. Um, it looks like it exists under a bridge or some other structure. So
This is the TARDIS appearing, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Well, it's
So
interesting. This actually is a good time to bring up a discussion point.
sure.
Um, so a couple weeks ago now, there was a big stink, I want to say, online.
Mm,
And you might have seen this as well. The BBC basically made a press release about who the Doctor is,
mm,
and it was I don't have it with me, but it was something to the effect of but who is he? To some, he's just a traveler, and to some, he's more important than that. It was more in depth than that, but it seemed
mm,
to suggest
mm,
that the show was going to heavily retcon a lot of Timeless Child stuff.
mm.
And then that sparked a conversation about, oh, well, does that mean that they're going to completely ignore the Whittaker era? That seems in poor taste. They can't do that. And there's a huge
Yeah.
discussion online. But this
Yeah.
is still very clearly her TARDIS.
Mm.
So, like, they
Yeah.
haven't
No. It's
ignored it. I can't
no.
imagine that RCD is going to uh, reference it significantly in this or even beyond.
Yeah.
But I
I mean,
also don't imagine he's going to take drastic steps to erase any of it either.
yeah. Look, it's tricky because, and I may have even said something like this before, but when you look at the way this special has been built up, um, along with small things like the fact that the logo of Doctor Who now has gone back to a very classic
Mm,
um look.
yeah,
I think there would have to be some effort on if maybe on the creative team and certainly the marketing team to sort of push the Chibnall era aside, because I think they know that the Timeless Child arc and the ending in particular did sour the audience a lot, so they're probably trying to move forward as much as they can, but I don't think um the creative team generally, and I certainly don't think RTD is disrespectful enough of the audience to ignore it completely.
no.
Um, because look, we've said it before. We have problems with the Tribunal era. It's really poorly written
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it's still, I think, important that we acknowledge it as a part of its history, not least of all because, we have the first woman doctor. And as you say, if they were trying to completely ignore it, that would be kind of in poor taste. So I
Yeah,
hope they're
well,
not going to do that.
let's also
Um,
let's also remember that the Tribunal era has its fans.
yeah, yeah.
There are people that like it, and there are people who think Timeless Child worked for them.
Mm,
And I think uh, if we're embracing this idea of RTD pulling together all these different elements of the show's past, then we have to imagine that in terms of how he's going to handle the show moving forward, it's probably going to be roughly the same. It
yeah.
would be, I think if he were to just never bring it up, that would be one thing, and I think that's the more likely to do.
Yeah.
But it would be another thing entirely if the entirety of Series 14 is dedicated to heavily retconning the whole
Yeah.
thing, or
Yeah, there's a difference.
trying to work out some add-on to that plot that makes it all make sense.
Yeah.
I think we can save that for other things. It's like
Yeah.
how uh and I don't have much first-hand experience of this, but from what I've heard and what I've gathered, it seems like quite a lot of what the Star Wars TV shows do,
Mm.
especially the cartoon ones from a while back, is recontextualizing elements from the prequels and from the sequel trilogy that weren't as well received, but like adding new stuff on top of them that ties them tighter
Yeah.
into the canon and makes them make a
Yeah,
bit more
for
sense in
sure.
universe. I think it would be ambitious for Russell T Davies to try and do that because that's quite a lot of balls to juggle. And if you
Yeah.
don't stick the landing on like even a small bit, you have basically everyone mad at you. But that could
Yeah.
easily be something that the extended universe like Big Finish could do. Maybe if Jodie Whittaker ever gets the Chris Eccleston treatment and gets to
Yeah.
come back for some Big Finish audio dramas. Maybe some writers there can try and
Yeah.
tackle Timeless Child again and make it A, make more sense with the canon,
Mm.
and B, give her Doctor a more solid arc surrounding it.
Yeah, for
Because I
sure.
think that's what that character and her fans deserve more than sweeping it all under the rug.
Yeah, I agree. I think again, it's about like I said, like I understand their desire to move forward. I mean, the fact that they, we said it last year. The fact that they released the Centenary Special trailer like 2 weeks before it premiered, but then they had trailers for this special like a year and a half before,
Mhm.
or little bits and pieces like a year and a half before it's going
Yeah.
to premiere. I think that shows the mindset that the certainly the marketing team are in at this point. But
Mm.
I agree that I don't think RTD is going to be so disrespectful as to like deliberately say no, guys, don't worry about it. It was all a dream.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So yeah, I think your suspicions I think are going to turn out to be quite correct, even
I
if
mean,
it's not explored a lot in the mainline universe. At least probably in the Big Finish stuff, they're going to do some more with it.
mhm.
Hmm.
I'm just sorry. I'm just gonna quickly
Yeah.
update one of my predictions into something that I think is really funny, and I don't think it's gonna happen, but it would be quite a lot of points if I got right. You continue with the analysis.
Sure, yeah, that's completely fine. So Doctor emerging from the TARDIS, nothing super remarkable there, I guess. Um, there's the next bit. The Doctor says, I've got a friend called Donna Noble. Um, there's yeah. So this is, I suppose, a little bit interesting. So there's a shot of the Doctor looking at someone off screen because he's in like the middle of London, I think. Um, and this person appears to be carrying boxes. There's like several of them, and you can they don't focus on it enough to read clearly, but I think it quite like it's pretty clear it says fragile on them, so um that's the thing. Um and then there is what is presumably a reaction shot of Donna staring at screen left as she carries a box of craft supplies. And there's a food truck in the background and people
Yeah,
walking by. But the shot is interesting because the previous shot had somebody on screen right holding several boxes in front of their face, but this
yeah.
shot of Donna has her only holding one box in front of her face.
Well, here's my
So
assumption, and you can kind of see Rose Noble to the right of screen during
yes,
the
oh
shot,
yeah, I
and
was gonna say yeah,
We'll get there in a second. I think this
yeah,
is a
sure.
family outing. I think it's
Mm,
Donna's husband that is carrying all the boxes, being a good
mm,
house husband, and
mm,
while Donna's only got the one, which is very typical, at least from where the character was retconned to.
mm.
And I think this is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lovely joint family outing to London town. They've bumped into the Doctor, and she doesn't recognize him, obviously, and she's dismissive of him. But I think that I don't think any of them actually recognize him. I don't think any of these characters have ever met the Doctor before. Um, but yeah, I think
yeah.
this is probably very early in the first special, probably soon after the Doctor materializes in that
Oh
alleyway,
yeah.
stumbles out into London and bumps into Donna again and goes, "Hang on, wait, what's going on? I look like this, and I've suddenly met Donna. This cannot be a coincidence."
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I think you're. analysis there is, I think, pretty on the money. It is likely to be some sort of family outing. I thought maybe for a second Rose Noble may have been holding those other boxes, but it could be anything, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's not much to say more on
Not really.
on that.
We then cut to some shots from
Children of Time. Did I say Children of Time?
You did say Children of Time. You meant End of Time and the Stolen Journey's End stuff from Journey's End. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep thinking it's the Children of Time. Yeah, no, Journey is an End. Yes, that's what I mean. So again, nothing too remarkable there. It's nothing. It's literally nothing we haven't seen before. So then we've got the Doctor explaining that if Donna remembers Kim, she'll die. This transitions to the Doctor explaining this to somebody.
Yeah, who is this?
Yes,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who this other character is. Perhaps a new one who knows Donna somehow. Maybe a
Give me a second.
work colleague or friend or something.
I need to look up an actor name to see if is that her. Cool. I don't think it is. Oh, it could be. If it's not, I'm gonna look really bad. So there was an actress who was announced for the specials who, this is a character named Shirley Ann Bingham, who I don't know who that is. But the actor's name is Ruth Madeley is the actor's name, who notably appeared in the Big Finish audio dramas as a Sixth Doctor companion called Hebe Harrison.
Right.
Now, not the same character, notably, like I said. If this is her, I assume it's just like a nod to that. But I'm curious as to, they announced that really early on. This actor was announced in December of last year. It was so this has been quite a long time. This was announced before Kate Lethbridge Stewart was announced. Before Rose Noble, I think, was confirmed. Before all of Donna's extended family was confirmed to be coming back. So why is this character so important that they were announced before anyone else and announced as someone who no one has ever heard of? Am I looking too much into this?
Maybe. It feels like a bit of a stretch, but I mean, it's possible, I suppose. I'm not sure.
But it's basically just him explaining to what I assume to be a passerby the Donna situation, which I assume will be more for the benefit of the audience who aren't familiar with it more than anything else.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's helpful. I think we've said sort of, companion being a fish out of water character, it's the Doctor explaining, the rules, I guess.
Yeah.
A good way to sort of get the audience up to speed. So, yeah, it could be. I'm really not so sure who it would be. But yeah, he's obviously explaining how this all goes. I will say this: I am interested to see how they explain. Because Donna clearly recognizes the Doctor at some point, so them having that sort of great reunion and Donna realizing who the Doctor is, that's obviously happening. But I am curious to see how they work around that. I don't know how important that will be to the story, but watching it play out, I think will be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think the next shot is our first main look at Rose Noble, which I want to discuss this character for a moment because friend of the show Sam Sweeting has been baffled by this character for a while, and I want to get her thoughts out into the open, so maybe you can shine some light on them as well. So, this character was announced alongside the first 60th anniversary announcements, alongside Neil Patrick Harris, alongside David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Yasmin Finney, who is notably a trans woman, which I'm sure the internet is going to love. Certain subsets of the internet are definitely going to have a field day with this one. I thought Russell T Davies was going to stop the show from being woke. Well, no, absolutely not. Um, but notably, the character is presumably also a trans woman.
Hmm.
Um, so they wouldn't have been born with the name Rose.
Yeah.
So where did the name Rose come from? This is the thing that's been baffling Sam for a while.
Yeah, sure.
I think because is the assumption there would be that uh, she came out to her parents and they were both very supportive,
Hmm.
and then Donna said, "Hey, I've got an idea for a new name for you. How about Rose?" I don't know where that came from. I just plucked it out of nowhere. But
Mm.
it feels really disrespectful to assign someone else
Yeah.
their new name.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening here. The other option would
Hmm.
be that, and this is what I assume, because from this shot, it seems like Rose Noble is familiar with the Doctor, and from other shots in the trailer as well.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that Wilf has secretly been telling Rose stories of what her mum did as a
Mm.
way of like keeping it all alive? And
Sure.
then from there is where she got the name Rose, despite the fact that Rose interacted with Wilfred for like 15 minutes
Hmm.
total. Although she did save him from a Dalek, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's probably just going to be a small thing,
Mm.
but it's been keeping Sam up at night. So I
Sure.
wanted to address it
Yeah.
in the podcast, just so that
Sure.
she feels heard. But
Yeah.
yeah, any thoughts on that?
Um. I mean, I think you articulated it pretty well there. It it'll be an interesting detail, I think, when we actually watch this.
Yeah.
But your idea that Wilfred may have been telling her stories, and telling her not to discuss them with her mother because of the memory thing, that makes sense.
hmm
So yeah, I'm not sure. I think we'll have to wait and see, mainly for that one.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, this character is probably going to become really important in these stories because, again,
Mm.
Yasmin was announced very early. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if Rose Noble becomes a secondary companion throughout a lot of this, or
Yeah.
especially in
Oh,
the first half when Donna can't really be involved. I imagine
yeah,
Rose
for
will
sure.
fill that role,
Yeah.
and it's
Um,
just going to be nice to have a good Rose in Doctor Who. This is my power of the Doctor. We're done discussing that era. It's over.
um, yeah, I think in the end, though, we are just gonna have to wait and see. It could
Mhm.
be, yeah. I'm not sure how they'll sort all that out. Um, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I
Um,
think during this shot we see the spaceship crash.
yeah, like
That
it's
everyone's
them
looking
looking
at.
at it's the Doctor and Rose Noble looking at something in some distant object that's presumably falling from the sky because there's a crowd of people with their phones out and filming it, and then we cut to the shot of um the object falling in. It's a spaceship. It presumably it's Beep's spaceship.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, the Doctor says a spaceship crashes right in front of her. So yeah, and that given like in reference to the previous line, that's him talking about
Yeah.
Donna. So yeah, so that'll again it's been quite brazen in the fact that the parameters of this, the fact that Donna has this memory issue, that's clearly going to be addressed, but as to how, I still can't figure. But I kind of like the fact that they're being
Mm.
that bold because they might do something kind of creative and kind of
Well, I
wild.
wonder. I wonder if a lot of this story is going to be Donna accompanying the Doctor on this adventure,
Mm,
thinking it's the first time she's doing so,
mm,
and
yeah.
there's probably going to be a lot of this seems really familiar. Well, it's not. It's
Mm,
not familiar. I've never seen you before.
mm. Um, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell where they'll take it, but I'm keen to see like what they do with it nonetheless.
Yeah, well, it's
Um,
important to remember that in the end of time, Donna's memories were triggered even when the Doctor wasn't there.
mm,
You know, she sees um, her mum and her fiance turn into the Master, and that's enough to trigger it.
mm,
It might just be that that happened not long after the memory wipe
mm,
happened, so it's possible that it was a bit uh, fresher in her
mm,
subconscious. But it remains to be said, and this is another thing that Sam brought up the other day:
mm,
how many uh, clearly alien occurrences have there been on this planet since then?
mm.
And has Donna just missed them all, as is Donna's tradition to do so?
Yeah, I mean, would any alien phenomena like would any of that necessarily be a trigger for her memory or
The only thing I can think would be when the British government made Daleks, and then more Daleks came.
oh yeah.
That would probably be of the on Earth alien invasions that have happened
Hmm.
since the previous Russell T Davies era. That would probably
Hmm.
be the main one.
Yeah. Sure.
And that would be hard to miss because it's a
Hmm.
national government program, and then there were Daleks all over London.
Yeah.
Maybe they were out of the country that day.
Yeah, who knows.
Um,
Um
that would be the only thing. I think
hmm.
everything else that happened, everything major that happened, it would be realistic to assume that she could have been out of away, or it wouldn't have triggered her.
Yeah. Or maybe her family would have made a concerted effort to make sure she didn't, you know, see or hear about any of this stuff. That's possible.
Yeah, that's
Um
true. I mean, there would also be stuff that you wouldn't necessarily attribute to aliens. The main
yeah.
thing that I'm thinking of, and the one thing that she could not possibly have missed, was the year of the slow invasion, when
Mm.
black cubes appeared all over the world for a year.
Mm.
Another amazing Chibnall script, by the way. That would be
um
something that you definitely couldn't miss because it happened over a year. But
yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily attribute those events to aliens unless someone came out and said it was aliens, and I don't think anyone would have at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Um but yeah, I mean, I don't, as we've said, I don't doubt that RTD has thought this through thoroughly. It's not going to be a, oh well, I mean, do I really believe that RTD? What are you doing? No, I think whatever it is, whatever the explanation, it's going to be pretty satisfying. I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
again, the fact that they're being that bold in saying, okay, well, she clearly recognizes the Doctor at some point, even in this trailer.
Hmm.
I think tells me that they've obviously, like RTD has obviously thought this through.
Yeah.
Um, so again, it's very intriguing, and you really kind of sit there thinking, well, how the hell are they going to write their way out of this? But I feel completely confident that RTD is going to do it. So,
Hmm.
hmm.
Then we see Beep the Meep in, I assume, Rose's bedroom.
Yeah, or yeah, no, it probably was. It's funny because he's hiding amongst the
On the
little of like a
toys,
bunch of
yeah.
plush toys.
It's very,
So, I mean, that
very
makes
Frank Reynolds.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's probably a good moment to say that the puppet actually looks really good.
Yeah, yeah, he
It's
does.
quite a good effect.
Yeah, pardon me, which I think is, a bit of a contrast to the, uh, shall we say, so-so puppeteering that's occurred in Doctor Who throughout its history.
Well, it
Um,
also makes sense. Like, these are the
yeah,
only episodes of the year. I imagine they got a substantial budget for them.
yeah. Um, I don't know, like, would Disney have been funding this story at all, or is it only?
I think Disney only have distribution
Yeah, okay,
rights.
yeah.
I don't think they
No,
have any say in
yeah, that makes sense.
production or distribution or no,
Yeah.
production or
Hmm.
development.
Mind you, we say what I say about, these so-so special effects of Doctor Who. particularly in the classic series, but we've both seen the face of Bo, and we both know how great that looks.
Yeah,
So
certainly.
even in 2005, they must have known that the practical effects were quite good.
Mm.
So the fact that Beep the Meep looks as good as he does here, really isn't that surprising.
No,
Exciting, but
certainly
not
not.
that surprising. Certainly by modern Who standards, I don't think so. So that's really good.
Yep.
Next shot, the Doctor's looking off in the distance beyond the camera, and there's like I don't think they're called a SWAT team in the UK, but I'm just gonna
No.
call them that for shorthand.
SWAT team with unit officers, I presume.
Yes, yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, it could very well be unit.
They don't look like
Um,
Raft Warriors.
no, no, unless they're in disguise. I mean, look, here's the thing, right? And I know I've said this about Doctor Who, but like Doctor Who is a show where you can do almost anything. So if there's some really strange, wacky twist, weird little timey-wimey bits of magic, or aliens in human suits, God knows what, it wouldn't surprise me.
Sure.
It's
do like in
unlikely that
this.
these SWAT members are secretly aliens, but who
No.
knows?
I do like in this moment. Donna yells out, "We've got a bloody Martian in the." And
Yeah.
I love that because it draws back to the Runaway Bride, when for
Mm.
basically the entire story, Donna called the Doctor a Martian.
Mm.
It's nice to see that's consistent with just Donna thinking all aliens are from Mars.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if, like, because presumably she's referring to Beep, but what if, like, she actually is literally referring to the Doctor,
Mm,
once again? I mean, I don't know exactly how that would work, but it would just be funny, I think,
sure.
if
Well, I also
something
assume
like
that
that happened.
means the Beep the Meme isn't in Rose's bedroom. She's just in, or he's just in the shed.
Yeah, that's what I'd wondered as well. The lighting looked kind of like a shed area, I suppose. So,
Which would make more
um,
sense given the crash.
mm, yes, no, that makes sense. Um, so then we've got the Doctor peeking through what is presumably the letterbox for the noble household.
Yep.
And then we see Donna's mother moving towards camera saying, "Don't look." So this is, presumably the Doctor sort of hiding, making sure that
Yep.
Donna doesn't see him.
Also reaffirming the belief that throughout any presumed alien invasion, this family would take their best steps to hide Donna from it.
Yeah, yeah, that also makes sense. So as to what exactly that means, I'm not 100% sure, but it's pretty clear that, again, they're obviously dealing with this memory loss issue, and they're gonna confront it in some way. I just don't exactly know how they'll do it.
Mm.
And then we've got a reaction shot of Beep looking up at Donna, which is interesting. So yeah, I mean, assuming that all takes place in the same scene, maybe that shows that Donna's family can't protect her from everything because, again, there's what she thinks is a Martian in their house.
Yeah.
But obviously, tensions are going to sort of rise to a fever pitch at that point because, again, the Doctor knows what's going to happen if he walks through that door. Not least of all because he looks almost exactly the same as he did when Donna last saw him. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then we see Sylvie giving him a big old slap.
Yep. Yeah. to the Doctor as he enters the hallway.
Yep. Which be careful, Doctor Who. I just want to say that real quick. For a few years in the 2010s, there was an inclination to play a domestic violence towards men as a bit of a joke. Companions, especially Moffat's, loved to slap the Doctor, and don't do that. So I hope this is a one-off because Sylvie's desperate to keep him away from Donna.
That would make sense.
Yes.
As far as the motivation. And they're playing it kind of for laughs there, which, but yeah, I can't imagine it's gonna. I can't imagine it'll be like a regular thing.
No,
Um,
this is
and
a.
they'll
I'm just.
try to justify it in the narrative as much as they can.
Yeah, well,
Um,
this is just going to be like a. It's probably just a reflex.
yeah, sure.
Like
It.
Sylvie's worried about Donna. She sees this
Yeah,
guy who she knows can't be near him, and she goes, "Ah, get away!"
yeah, yep. And an in the moment thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think that would make sense.
yeah.
Then
This isn't Clara Oswald finding every and any opportunity for a slap in the face.
I have not watched enough of the Moffat era to be able to realize that, but I'll take your word for it.
It happened too much. Not always, but too much.
um, so then we get a shot of what is presumably the Wrath Warriors. I didn't realize
Yes.
that's who they could be. I've just written two insectoid aliens, but presumably it's the Wrath Warriors.
Yes, I'm looking at an image of them, and it's pretty spot on, actually.
Yeah, sure. And then they're firing lasers up a screen left. Always fun to get a bit of wild action. And they're staring at upper screen left, so
I
clearly there's
assume
something going on there.
Yeah, at this point I'm assuming that all of the footage we've seen so far is episode 1.
Is what pun?
Episode 1.
Yes, I would imagine so. And then and there seems to be in some sort of suburban area. So probably like Donna's front yard, I imagine.
Presumably, yeah.
They've come to the house for some reason. They're invading. They're doing something. Probably, they've probably come to find Beep the Meat because they think he's a fugitive hiding in this location.
Well, that is what they do.
It's got to be something along those lines.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to the hallway of Donna's house. There's an explosion coming in from the front door. And it looks like it's been blasted open from the outside. So this is presumably when the Wrath Warriors are storming the house.
Yeah.
And then I've got here there is also there's a member of the SWAT team firing. So this is the interesting bit. So then there's I think the shot is like this: someone from the SWAT team coming in through the door, and then they fire a gun towards the camera, and then the doctor comes into frame from screen left and like puts his hand out to stop the bullet, and also you may notice there seems to be like a blue sort of sparky glow around his hand at that point. Now maybe I'm reading a bit much into this, but would he be using some of his sort of post-regeneration timey-wimey magic powers to literally stop a bullet and then immediately heal from it?
Maybe. I mean, it is established that 15 hours post-regeneration, Time Lords have amazing healing properties. Like, the Doctor literally regrows a hand.
Yeah. So it and the reason I point that out is because it is a very brief shot, and if I hadn't paused the trailer and tried to analyze it, I probably may not have thought much about it. But it's such a strange, when you break it down, what's happening. It's such a strange image and concept. It seems like if it was another show, it would seem too strange for that show. But because it's Doctor Who, it makes me think, oh, there's probably something going on here.
Well, it doesn't look like regeneration energy, which
it's normally yellow.
Yeah, it might mean that the Doctor actually has some kind of device that he's whipped up to sort of act as a shield.
True.
And he's just put his hand out as like a... Maybe he's like in vain trying to shield Donna, who's further down the hallway from with this.
And I think, to be fair, when you look at all of the trailers and stuff for this special, and they have the Doctor Who logo, they clearly have some sort of regeneration energy coming off the logo, and it's clearly yellow. So maybe it's not regeneration. It could easily be just some piece of sci-fi tech that the Doctor has at his disposal. But I wouldn't totally discount it being regeneration energy, because it's not like that sort of thing hasn't happened before.
No, yeah.
So then we've got so we've got the Doctor in some sort of, this next bit, we've got the Doctor in some sort of spacecraft, and he rapidly stands up and looks at something behind the camera. And then like the camera like follows with him. It rises with him, which is again a neat bit of direction. I quite like that. And it looks like he's sitting in the chair of some sort of alien spaceship. So again, it probably is Beep the
Beeps.
Meeps
Yeah.
spaceship. Yeah, like, and I think I've written here, like, it's probably related to the sci-fi tech we saw earlier. Again, I think it's pretty inevitable. It's got to be the same thing. Then we've got a brief shot of Donna seated with the Doctor's hand in the foreground, which is an interesting shot. And you assume that whatever Donna's staring at, it's what the Doctor was
Looking at as well,
staring at in the previous shot as well. So obviously this is one of the cruxes, I think, of the plot. This might be when sort of they shift gears and show parts of part two.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you know what I mean? Like, it feels like, act break at this point. So
It does a bit, yeah. It looks like
yeah,
they've found something on, like, maybe Beep the Meep's computer
yeah,
that's
and
made
maybe
them
it's
go,
like the caretaker. Good lord, the toy maker. I
Yeah,
don't know where
well,
that
it
came from.
makes me.
Anyway,
It made the way Donna's looking at it, like this sort of betrayal on her face, makes me discover that Beep isn't a fugitive after all. But that this might be where they discover his uh, terrorist origins and discover that maybe he has other plans for Earth.
yeah, or maybe he could be like hiding from the toy maker. Even.
My assumption is that the
Hmm.
toy maker is not really a part of Beep the Meep's plan. My assumption is the toy maker is sort of cosmically guiding all of this stuff to coincide with Donna for some reason. Because
Yeah,
they
no,
even
that
mentioned in the trailer that there's too much coincidence surrounding it. Like
yeah,
the second that they bump into each other again is when a spacecraft lands in her house.
yeah.
It's way too coincidental, and my belief is that for some reason to maybe get back at the Doctor for some past slight, which again
Well,
is
we'll
implied
get
later in
into
the
that
trailer. Yeah.
later on
Mhm.
because I've got again some notes about the original
Okay.
Toymaker story. Sorry, could you
Cool.
just say that other bit again? You cut out there for a second.
Which other bit?
The no, now I've forgotten it. Sorry,
Doesn't
damn,
matter.
that's annoying.
It'll be on my audio track.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. So, yeah, like the Toymaker being, this grand sort of game master.
Uh-huh.
That makes perfect sense. That's totally in line with who he is as a character based on the Celestial Toymaker story. Again, I'll go into this into more detail later on.
Yeah.
But the fact that he because the Doctor even says, "I don't believe in destiny, but if it exists, it's heading for Donna Noble." So the idea that the Toymaker is manipulating things behind the scenes.
Yeah, and
Um,
presumably is the one responsible for this regeneration as well.
yes. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how that sort of works out. But yeah, I think him being sort of the great orchestrator,
Mhm.
um, of this whole thing, that would perfectly, I think, be in line with his character. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
We have Donna running through presumably Beep's spaceship.
um, yes, yeah, that's what I've got here. Yeah,
Perhaps
it's got to be.
pursued by Wrath warriors, presumably.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's got to be on Beep the Meep's spaceship. At this point, we've seen enough shots of it to sort of establish it as one of the major locations. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Then there is another shot of the explosion in Donna's kitchen. As we see from the hallway. And what I've written here is interesting. So it looks almost identical to the early shot, but now we've got we briefly see like a silhouette of someone quickly dashing out of camera, to screen right. So I wonder, is this the exact same scene as before? If not, is there like a timey-wimey explanation for it? Is there like a loop? Has the Doctor gone back on his timeline, or what's going on there?
I think it's just someone ducking out of the way of debris.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. True.
Like for my assumption is that it's a coordinated assault from all sides, where it's like they're
Yeah,
firing off the
sure.
front door and they're focusing on that, and then there's the entrance from the back door as well.
Sure. Yeah, no, that would make sense. It wouldn't, again, if it was some weird timey-wimey thing, it wouldn't hugely surprise me, given, again, the toy maker is kind of this weird trickster. Maybe he's doing something with time, who knows. But yes,
Maybe.
it could easily just be, standard reaction shot. Here's the other explosion. So, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, there's like a reaction shot of the kitchen as more explosions occur, so that could essentially be what that is. Yeah, so we've got a shot of Donna yelling as she and the others quickly escape the house. Rose is in the background heading out the door. Again, nothing terribly remarkable
Yeah.
about that. Shots of the SWAT team members with a bit of a like firing a bazooka.
Yep.
It hits a parked car near Donna's house. Now, it's interesting because it looks like there's like a SWAT truck next to the car that basically gets launched into the air by the explosion. So, if this is true, then why is one of these SWAT members sort of basically firing on their own equipment? Is there a bit of sabotage going on? Is there,
Well, it
I don't
could be
know,
that
alien mind control? Who knows?
it could be that the SWAT team have been sent after the Wrath Warriors, and this
Yeah,
explosion
yeah.
from a Wrath Warrior weapon, which is something I never want to say because it scrambles my tongue to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, that could easily be it. And the thing is, I think we should keep in mind, and the reason why I'm saying all these weird sort of theories even now is that I like the trailer, like it's designed to, to sell the show.
Yeah.
So the editors of it will be doing anything they can to sort of build the mystery and to misdirect the audience, I think.
Mm.
So, and especially with a show like Doctor Who, which, as I've said before, you can do, almost anything. I don't think we should be cutting ourselves off to any really wild possibilities that could
Sure, sure,
be
sure.
going on. So next we've got a shot of Donna staring into camera, and she looks as if she's about to cry.
This,
Really,
I think, is the shot where she remembers.
yeah, I imagine. I wrote down here like in the background seems to be the interior of the spaceship seen earlier, and then I said although it could be a new TARDIS interior,
Maybe.
but that's probably unlikely at this point, because it's not the TARDIS interior. We don't know what it looks like at this point, and it's not significantly highlighted in this trailer. So
No.
yeah, few shots of the Doctor in some kind of serious conference room. People sitting in the background.
This looks like Unit, I think.
Yes, I was going to say yeah. I think it's the interior of Unit HQ. And then here's an interesting thing though. The camera tracks sort of around the Doctor, and then we see the back of the toy maker's head with the sort of the grey old man hairstyle, which is interesting.
Is that the toy maker? Because it looks more like Kate Stewart to me.
I thought it was. It looked.
That hair looks blonde to me.
Right. I thought it looked grey from when I looked at it, but you've got it in front of you, so presumably
Yeah.
that yeah. So yeah, it could also easily be Kate Stewart.
It might be because this shot transitions into it sort of fades into the next shot, so maybe you've
Yeah.
paused it at an odd time.
Yeah, that's entirely true. Yeah, so
Speaking of the toy maker,
yes, next we've got a shot of him standing in the background staring towards camera. And there's like a toppled over car with a burning wheel in the foreground, which is again a really neat shot that I quite like, and obviously people running around in the background, terrified. Now, this is the interesting thing. So behind all of them are some posters with graffiti on them, including a few weird smiley faces. And I think could these be a reference to the toy maker and his activities?
it's probably a good time to go into that a bit more.
Yeah. Because those smiley faces show up a couple more times in this trailer. Not highlighted massively, but just in the background, like you can very clearly see that smiley face. So I think it's gotta have something to do with the toy maker. Maybe they're like weird messages he's leaving the Doctor.
Well, tell us more about the toy maker. Actually, is this a good moment to his past, especially concerning the Michael Goss story?
Yeah, sure, why not? So yeah, so listened to the story. It's so, like it's not, you know, a bona fide Doctor Who
Classic.
classic. There's a lot of it's weird. So basically the Doctor and the companions get separated, and you've got the Doctor in one room completing. You know what the Lucas Tower is, where you've got it's also known as the Tower of Hanoi, where you've got three pillars with sort of circles on each one, and and each circle, the one on top of the previous is smaller than the
Yeah,
last one, and
yeah,
you've got
I
them.
know, I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that. So he's got to complete that, but instead of like 5 or 6 circles, there's 1,023. So
Oh,
he spends
Christ.
most of the story figuring, solving that puzzle, most of it off screen.
Of course, most of it off screen.
Yeah,
You want
and
to see that? That would be boring as fuck.
the weird thing is, like he spends the most time with the toy maker because the toy maker's with him there, sort of tormenting him and watching him play this. But because of that, and because again it is such a dull, mundane activity, there you don't see as much of the toy maker as perhaps you could. I don't know how deliberate that is, but anyway, um, structurally because of that, it's a little bit, so, and it gets a little bit better in the end. But anyway, but the point is the toy maker is presented as a very, very powerful being,
Yeah.
a person who can create their own reality, who because the reason why he does this, like he traps people in these games and basically forces them to play them.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of fun, tormenting the Doctor, of course. But if they don't, I think, what do they say? Like if they don't play the game, um, his reality ceases to exist, but he doesn't. So he's immortal. He always exists. It doesn't matter whether
Sure.
his reality exists or not. He's not like Omega or the Beast, for example.
Yeah.
Um, but he presumably has enough sort of pseudo magical powers to will up entire realities into existence, and that's big. That's like even by Doctor Who's standards, that's a lot of power.
Yeah.
And I do want to highlight this. There's a conversation here that I've written down. So this is between the Doctor and the two companions, Stephen and Dodo. Um, so the Doctor at some point says, "The mind is indestructible, so is the toy maker." Stephen then says, "What, you mean he can never be destroyed?" And then Dodo said, "But you defeated him." And then the Doctor says, "Yes, just at this moment, but there will be other meetings in another time." And then Dodo
Mm.
says, "Then your battle with him will never end." And then the Doctor says, "Yes, you're quite right, my dear." So,
And then it was ignored for 57 years.
yeah. Well, again, it's just really interesting that they've brought back this character after so long.
Hmm.
Um,
I
and I,
wonder if
y-
the character was intended to return in future.
in
Reception to the
future,
story was
in,
like so they went, let's not.
yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, this is a fairly early Doctor story. I think it might have been in like the second season or something, um, or maybe even the end of the first season. But in any case,
Well, it was
um,
1966, so it would have been
maybe near the end of the second season
close to
then.
the first Doctor's regeneration, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, okay, so it would have been later.
Yeah,
In
because
any case,
if it had been the first season, in Barbara and
yes, that's true.
Susan would have been there.
Yep, that's true. In any case, so it's a long time, and I think what's happened is RTD has looked at this character and realized. I mean, I don't know what he thinks about the Celestial Toymaker, the story. I don't
Yeah.
think it's the amazing, but there's a lot of potential here. It's a
Oh yeah.
really conceptually interesting character you've got. So I think RTD's gone back and thought there's a real opportunity here to play with time, to play with memory, to play with the Doctor's past, and again, the whole sort of affecting, even sort of impacting the whole laws of causality to make all these coincidences work. Again, it totally fits in line with what the Toymaker does, because he
Uh-huh.
is, standing back as, and we'll get into this in slightly more detail soon, but as the puppet master. So
Yeah.
he's orchestrating this whole thing as some weird, kind of horrible game that the Doctor must play. And the fact that the Doctor sort of knows that this character is immortal, and now that he's beaten the Toymaker might hold a bit of a grudge, albeit a petty one. Um, it all sort of makes sense. It all fits together. So I think, yeah, like having the Toymaker be the orchestrator, that makes perfect sense to me. So yeah, we had him in the conference room, so that's presumably going to be Unit HQ. So yeah, next we've got the Toymaker with the smiley faces. So again, I think it'll all sort of link in. It'll be part of again the grand sort of master plan that he's got. And then I've written here that as the camera tracks, we see the Doctor in the foreground staring at the Toymaker. And then I said it's interesting to compare this shot with the previous, where the Doctor and the Toymaker's positions are swapped. But as you say, that's likely probably Kate Stewart, not the Toymaker, as I thought. But it's still kind of nice to see that sort of mirroring of shots, which again, as I've said, it just highlights that this is likely going to be directed quite well. So that's quite exciting, at least. Then we've got Donna standing in the street during the day, looking at something off screen. There's a heat.
It looks like it's the same scene. I think
Yeah.
Like Playmaker there.
So yeah, and there's there's a heat wave in the foreground, so it's presumably from the exploded car. So that makes sense.
That burning tire. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A shot of the Doctor at Unit HQ. Talking to Screenwrite about how the Toymaker has returned. So again, this totally tracks. And as I said, I think a lot of there's probably going to be quite a bit of retconning because you don't know a lot about the Toymaker from the Celestial Toymaker story.
Yeah.
But it is still very interesting that I think RTD has clearly looked back at this story and thought, okay, what can we really do with this?
Yes.
So I'll be very interested to see how that all plays out. Shot of the Toymaker dancing in the street, again, fairly unremarkable. It's kind of a money shot that we've seen a number of times at this point. Sort of utilizing Neil Patrick Harris's performance ability. It's all good fun.
Yes. Oh yeah, something I want to touch on before because we did our main discussion about Neil Patrick Harris back when it was first announced last year. But we haven't really brought it up much in this discussion.
Yeah,
it's going to be really hard for a lot of to not just see Neil Patrick Harris. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because that is actually how I feel about his performance as Olaf in the Series of Unfortunate Events series. Now, I know we've already gone into this to an extent, and how I have a lot of issues with that show, in particular with his performance.
Yep.
But the main problem is...
not.
No, I understand. But one of the issues was when I watched it, I'm just seeing Barney Stinson. Like, what am I really looking at? Now, I understand it. You may interpret it differently, and fair enough. But the curious thing is, yes, there's a risk if you've got MPH playing a very sort of trickster character, because, yeah, like, I suppose Barney Stinson is a bit like that, I guess, but if you've got him playing this character, who's quite wacky, it may be hard to separate MPH, maybe not the person, but the type of performances he gives, and to separate that from the Toymaker, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic about it because I've seen him in other stuff such as Gone Girl, which he's quite different in that movie than he is in other things he's played. So I think he's definitely got the acting chops to put enough sort of nuances and sort of unique spins on this character that's different from his other performances. But as you say, I think maybe there is still a risk of people not separating them. And as I said, this shot of him dancing in the street, as I said, it's the money shot, or one of the money shots. They've highlighted it in the little brief clips that they, hid on the BBC. They've put it, I think, in all of the trailers and teasers so far. They presumably, the marketing team at least, are banking on his performance ability and the types of roles he has played previously. So
it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like how sometimes a show that is like new or maybe a little lower budget will get a big name, and well, it's more that like because that they are such a famous actor, that's all you see when you look at them.
Mm,
I mean, especially when you consider that for this casting, they went outside of Britain to specifically get Neil Patrick
yeah,
Harris. It's going to be interesting to see, okay, was that justified
yeah,
and was this performance worth it? Or was it too distracting and could they have just gotten in? Because there's quite a lot of really notable big name British actors still haven't been in Doctor Who.
yeah, for sure. I
But
think we
I'm
even
still really looking forward to this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think, and even based on this trailer, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, but there's still a surprising amount of range and nuance in his performance, even in this trailer. So I think even if they are taking a risk and running the risk of people not separating MPH, the
Hmm.
the person from this character, I think I think it'll be a justified risk. I think there'll be it's calculated enough that it'll work. Um, and I know because like you pointed out last year that it was so wild when they announced it. You think of all the people getting NPH in this story, like you don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It seems oh no, genuinely, it seems like something that a Doctor Who fan would have a dream about. It's like, oh man, I had a dream the other night. I saw NPH on the Doctor Who official Facebook page, and we're living in a very strange time, Cuff.
Hmm.
I'll put it that way. Anyway, but either way, I'm still quite excited. I'll be interested to see what he does with it.
Yeah.
Um, so then we've
There's
got
still quite a lot of the trailer to discuss. We should probably hoof it through.
yeah. So we've got some stuff like the Doctor in Unit HQ talking about how the Toymaker has returned. Toymaker dancing in the street. Um, And then, oh yeah, it's slightly interesting thing. We've got a shot of Rose and Allie, and she's asking who are they, and Meep says, monsters, and that could be easily referring to the Wrath Warriors. It could be referring to anyone, I guess. Shot of the Toymaker waving at the camera. Nothing terribly remarkable there.
Yeah.
This next bit is interesting. So there's a shot of a large indentation in the wall of the spaceship from earlier, and then Donna says something so bad that the TARDIS ran away, and then the Doctor then says yes. So like, wow, what are we really doing there?
Yeah. I assume that this is soon after the Toymaker's first appearance where the TARDIS has gone, nope. Or at the very least, the Toymaker may have stolen the TARDIS away, as it turns out.
Yeah, I think I mean maybe they're implying that the Meep had something to do with it, but it's likely the Toymaker, and that actually also that tracks with his characterization in the Celestial Toymaker because he steals the TARDIS basically and
Okay.
holds it sort of for ransom. So yeah, then yeah, the Donna presses a button on the
Sorry,
spaceship.
real quick. I like that this will likely be the explanation as to how the TARDIS changed. Like, just have it out of the story for a while and then it pops up.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
done so many times before to change its appearance, but it's gonna work
yeah,
here
yeah,
again as well, I think.
yeah, for sure. And then Donna finally says, "Then we go and kick its ass." It's always good fun seeing her with that funny attitude. It's good. Um, yeah, then she presses a button. Not really sure what that's about. And then we've got shots of helicopters and they're approaching London, and then they're carrying the TARDIS with
Yep.
them, which is interesting.
So neat callback to the 50th.
Yeah.
They did the
Um,
same thing there.
and then we've got a wide shot of what is again presumably Unit HQ with the
Yeah,
TARDIS carrying copter flying towards it.
yep, it's a pretty good rebuild after being torn down in Chibnall Who, how they basically all of a sudden in Power of the Doctor unit was just back again. Now
Mm.
they've got a whole building, so but
Yeah.
also in this shot there's heaps of smokestacks
Yes, which is
around
interesting.
London, which is going to lead into a future shot.
Yes. So you wonder, what's going on there. So yeah, so maybe like maybe they found wherever it ran away to. So maybe that's how we get that sort of plot thread along. So
Maybe my assumption is that happens later because in these scenes with Unit, the Doctor's wearing the same outfit have seen him in, but in the previous shot, he was wearing a completely different vest entirely.
Right, sure.
So I think that this unit stuff is happening before the TARDIS runs away.
Yeah, no, that also makes sense. That actually is probably more likely. Yeah, shot of the Doctor in the landing pad. Unit personnel. Oh, and then of course this is the Kate Lethbridge Stewart. This is their big reunion. So that should
Yay!
be pretty exciting.
It's going to be written well again.
Yeah.
I'm so
Oh
happy.
God.
Well, actually, this is fascinating. Actually, this actually Stewart, the only character that has been written by every showrunner while they were in the modern era.
Yeah,
No other character has had that honor yet. There have been actors that have had that honor. David Tennant was by Stephen Moffat in Day of the Doctor, but this isn't the 10th Doctor. This is a different Doctor.
Yeah.
Which is I like that she's becoming the new Brigadier. Where she pops up a unit every now and then.
Yep. Carrying the legacy. It's all great. And then there's just a shot of her staring at something above camera. A security monitor, I suppose, because it looks like the interior of Unit HQ.
Yep.
Then and this is interesting.
This is
when the shot with Kate Stewart welcoming the Doctor to unit, and then she asks, "What do we do this time, Doctor? How do we fight the human race?" And boy, howdy! I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I assume this is some kind of Toymaker influence, right?
Well,
tearing everything down, hence the burning London.
Well, I'm interested because and we even talked about this idea when we did the Two Who's Produced last year with you're making the humans, the villains. I don't know if they will do that. I'm not sure if they're going to have enough time or space to elaborate on that, but I actually really hope they kind of do. There's something so thematically rich about that. Again, it's as you say, it's probably not likely because they just won't have enough time. But I just love when Doctor Who sort of gets that thematically rich. So yeah, I hope they do, but yeah, it probably isn't likely. Yeah, but that at the very least is very, very interesting. Then we've got a shot of the Doctor in the street from earlier, people running in fear. As I said, this is when there's a shot here where the smiley face graffiti appears again in the background. So again, this is...
Hang on, let me have a look for this.
Yeah, sure.
I see it. There it is.
Yeah. So again, I think these are messages that I think the Toymaker's leaving the Doctor. Shots of burning car and cars colliding. Nothing particularly special about that. So the shot of the TARDIS with Donna's mother backing away quickly from it as if as it emanates a strange blue light. Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then there's a reaction shot of several onlookers, including Rose Noble getting caught in the blast of this weird wave of energy from the TARDIS.
I think it's been taken. And Donna's probably inside of it.
I'd wondered, is this when they first discover the TARDIS, or is it some effect caused by the regeneration, or maybe it's just the HADs being activated?
Maybe, yeah.
Who knows? It could be anything, but it's still a nice, intriguing shot. A shot of the Doctor walking near a bridge. Sees a plane crashing, like really close too. So that's a bit interesting. The mayhem is getting sort of ramped up, which is really neat. So this is another interesting one. A strange purple light glowing in a darkened room.
Yep.
And there's some kind of panel or a button with a blue-green light on it in the background. Again, the color is consistent with the color scheme of the spaceship interior we've seen so far, so it's probably in the Meep's spaceship. But yeah, I'm not sure where that would take place, but it is still interesting that they're doing that.
And the dialogue is something entered this world.
Yeah.
The assumption is it's the Toymaker, but I don't think this is his appearance.
No, that's probably more related to Beep the Meep. Although, I mean, it could be, because the Toymaker can create his own dimension, maybe him crossing sort of the dimensional boundaries, that might have something to do with it.
Maybe.
And then we've got a shot of the Doctor and Donna entering a room, and it looks like an antique toy store, and unsurprisingly, the Toymaker is inside. and he's wearing his sort of old man tinker outfit,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. Um, a giant drill digging into the earth is the next shot, with fire and lava appearing around it. And then the shot sort of follows the cracks as they move along the ground, and this is presumably what caused the smoke plumes to sort of rise from the ground. And then we see like the
I don't
the
know. I think these might be unrelated occurrences. The
you
smoke
think?
stuff is from rioting humans. I think this what we see here, like cracks and magma beneath the earth.
Mm.
I think this would create more than just smokestacks. I think this is a bigger event. This might even be a vision.
True.
Because I don't think London could come back from this.
True. Yeah, maybe those smoke plumes of smoke are just from like all the car crashes because we've obviously seen them happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Previously. They could be connected, but yeah, well, it's probably more likely that.
Tough to say, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we see a shot of the London skyline where we can see the giant fissures of fire just erupting across the landscape. So, as you say, yeah, like London it would be difficult for London to recover from that. That'd be pretty wild. And then we've got a shot of the Toymaker. He's got his grey hair, and then he's in some sort of weird nutcracker looking soldier suit.
Yeah.
And then he's running towards screen left. And as the camera tracks him, he looks really angry, and I like that because I think that kind of shows that this isn't just NPH being NPH. He's not just being a bit of a goofy, haha, weird guy. He's got more nuance and depth to
yeah,
him,
and that doesn't
which
surprise me because I read an interview about
Hmm.
when Neil Patrick Harris was offered this role, and
Hmm.
he and RTD had worked together on another name on hand at the moment. So they had worked together previously.
Yeah.
But when RTD offered him this role, he described it as delicious.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I'm seeing shades of that here. Like you get the eccentricity of someone.
Oh, he's clearly having a lot of fun.
Yeah, but then there's also clearly from this shot, there's clearly shades of emotionality.
Yeah.
Where the anger comes out.
There's some darkness there.
Drops, yeah.
And in fact, I would actually argue that one shot shows more darkness and maybe even more depth than anything in the original Celestial Toymaker story. Granted, not that I saw it, I only listened to it, but you get what I mean.
I'll take your word for it, yeah.
Yeah. Then we've got another. This is a really interesting shot. So it's a shot of Kate Stewart saying "open fire," but behind her is an old-looking wooden door with a bell on it, and it doesn't seem to be attached to anything. Because it seems really out of place in this very modern-looking room, which I think is inside unit somewhere. Could the Toymaker have crafted it? Is it like could it lead to like another dimension, which again makes perfect. It makes perfect sense going along with the Toymaker. And then I wrote down something which I don't think is terribly likely, but I thought I would do it anyway. I said, is it the entrance to another TARDIS, perhaps? Unlikely, but still. But I certainly think that door, because it crops up again in a couple of other shots. I think that's got something to do with the Toymaker. Like, it seems so out of place. There's no way that that's just a coincidence. Again, like a shot of Donna of the Doctor in Donna's hallways. The explosion happens again. Nothing particularly remarkable there. Shot of the Doctor hugging Donna with smoke in the background. Obviously, they're flagging that they'll have some pretty emotional scenes together. Which I'm quite looking forward to.
Yeah,
so that would make sense. Really good sort of classic sort of David Tennant intense emotions with his next shot. The Doctor standing in the interior of a spaceship and he's screaming, why does it have to be this? To screen left, it's someone off camera. So he could be saying that. I think almost certainly saying that to the Toymaker, who might be talking to him on a monitor, which again also would be consistent with how he's characterized in Celestial Toymaker, because he talks on monitors to people a lot, which is interesting. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that sort of plays out. So the next shot is the Doctor standing in front of the vintage door from earlier.
It is the same door, yeah.
Yeah, and he's looking up.
Very similar, at least.
Yeah, and he's looking up at some lights flashing above him. So again, I feel like it's got to have some significance. It feels they've shown it twice. This second shot, we've got lights flashing above the Doctor. Something's clearly happening. So I think, they're doing something with it. Which is interesting.
This scene and the framing of this looks like the same as the next shot when we have the giant toy maker with the roof removed, holding puppet strings. It
Yes,
looks like the
exactly.
same area.
It's not entirely clear what that is,
Yeah.
but it looks like a marionette of some kind. And again, this totally tracks with the toy maker being, the puppet master of this whole thing.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that would make sense, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. So we've got we've got the Doctor trapped in some weird small space, presumably on Beep's spaceship, and then he screams and bangs his hands on like a nearby grate. Maybe he's been taken prisoner, or maybe Donna is trapped somewhere. That would certainly track.
I
So
think that would elicit this kind of response
yeah,
from
for
the
sure, like
Doctor.
a companion in jeopardy. That sounds about right. Next we've got Doctor running out of Unit HQ onto the landing pad, towards a large turret gun,
Yep.
which wasn't there before. So that's strange. And then the next shot reveals it's the toy maker sitting in the turret, gun pointed towards the Doctor, which is
Yeah. It also looks like he's wearing some kind of like aviator outfit or
yeah.
some old timey flight pilot kind of thing.
I thought it was the same, Nutcracker soldier outfit that he wore before, but I may be mistaken. In any case, very, very bizarre shot, but again, that would make total sense.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be the toy maker trying to fuck with the Doctor, so um, and then it's him saying, your fight is with me. Again, very consistent with the Doctor's character. And then we've got Kate. This is another interesting one. We've got Kate Stewart, we've got Donna, and someone else in the background. And I think this third person is the woman that the Doctor was speaking to earlier, the one where he's warning them about Donna Noble and the memory issue.
It could be
Because it looks vaguely similar. So they presumably have a bit more of a part to play than we may suspect. So yeah.
maybe, yeah.
Then we've got a shot of Donna raising her hands, surrendering as she stands in front of a piece of alien tech. Again, probably on Beep the Meep ship. Then we've got a few shots of Doctor, saying to Donna, I don't know if I can save your life this time. Ooh,
She's probably not gonna die.
Yeah, we'll see, I suppose.
There'll be that risk, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Then we see a beam of light blasting the TARDIS as it stands in the spaceship.
This is presumably when it makes that huge indentation in the wall.
Yes.
That's where it's looking. The framing looks about the same.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's taken a piece of the wall with it. So maybe
Yeah, exactly.
either it's moved or at the very least it's around that time when the TARDIS disappears. Yeah, then we've got a soldier firing a gun while standing behind a riot shield. Other SWAT members are standing behind them. And this is, a reaction shot to the Wrath Warriors walking towards them. The bullets simply bounce off them, which should surprise nobody.
Nope.
It's always good fun when they do that. Then we've got a shot of the Doctor and Donna running through some strange hallway. Yeah, this is the interesting thing. So it looks like something out of the Victorian era, but the hallway lights are shaped like boxes with card suits on them.
Yeah.
And you think, is this a maze that the toy maker has placed them in? And that would make, again, perfect sense. I think that's probably what's going on here.
Especially with the way it's sort of collapsing behind them as well.
Yeah. Reality, collapsing in on itself. Then we've got a shot of the toy maker lying on a pink floor with a bed of rose petals, and then he throws the petals towards the camera.
He's wearing that Nutcracker costume again as well.
Yeah. And then he's got the worldwide premiere, which is all good fun. And then we've got the Doctor standing in an unknown location, turning around rapidly, and we've got shots of monitors in the background. So again, this is probably just Unit HQ. Then this is interesting. On the screens, there are repeated images of a strange, kind of unsettling face.
Yeah.
So my thinking is maybe the toy maker like hacked the signal to send the Doctor a message, or
That's my assumption, yeah.
yeah. Interesting image.
Yeah.
At any rate, then we've got the toy maker holding his hands up, in triumph as he completes the worldwide premiere line. And interestingly, there's a colourful background behind him, and it looks like a puppet theatre. So
This is presumably the same antique shop from earlier.
yeah, I imagine so. So again, there's a theme here, I think, with the toy maker. So
Certainly,
that's
yeah.
interesting. And then our final shot, we've got a close up of Ncuti Gatwa opening his eyes with a vague yellow background.
Yeah, while we have regeneration noise.
Yeah.
Playing.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. See, this location to me looks eerily similar to the cliff where Jodie regenerated.
Doing the one with the shot with Ncuti Gatwa in it.
Yes, this shot here. It's got the same kind of sunset quality to that cliff. I might be mistaken. It's been a while since I've seen that scene, but is the implication that this is all happening like where the toy maker has sort of ripped the Doctor's conscious mid regeneration to create this pocket world where he's putting him through all this stuff while the Doctor is on his way to be Ncuti Gatwa, or is it unrelated and it's not what I'm thinking it is at all?
Yeah. Yeah. It is hard to tell because the background is very, very vague. I will say, I think this was, officially released with the BBC, that in the earlier trailers where we see Ncuti Gatwa with this sort of, Earth background, that was revealed to be fake. That's not what's actually in that background. So, but it would be a spoiler if they revealed what it was. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that's connected to this, but we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, and that's the trailer. Like a lot of trailers, it doesn't really reveal too much about the overall story. It just gives a lot of vibes and setup.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's effective. I think...
Oh, for sure.
I am very, very excited about this.
Oh, yeah. It's,
Yep.
It'll be great.
Cool. So, one last thing to take care of. It's been a long episode, but we do have to get this out of the way. We have predictions to give. Now, some of these of mine certainly are gimmies. I think many of these are almost guaranteed to happen.
Sure.
And some of these I think are a bit more outlandish. And it's similar to last time when we did this. And I'm also going for a few Hail Marys that will basically guarantee win if they can. But again, it's up to our opponent how many points we assign for each prediction based on how likely we think it's going to be.
For sure.
We'll alternate through these. We'll go one at a time. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. Cool. I will say, I don't think these predictions are quite as wacky as the really insane ones that I made last year, but I think that's mainly because I don't feel like I have to be really nervous about some weird, bizarre, insane plot twists that are going to happen. Because this is written by RTD and it's written by Chris Chibnall. So,
totally,
if any of these are not as exciting as last year's, there's a reason for that. Anyway,
I think I can make up for that. I've got a few bad shit ones.
I'm very excited. Anyway, so I'll go through some of these.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So according to the TARDIS wiki, there's a theory that the toy maker could be one of the Guardians of Time, so like the Black Guardian and the White Guardian. And this might be true, but I'm also wondering, I suspect that the toy maker might just be another Time Lord who somehow managed to survive the Time War, maybe by like sealing himself off in a self-made dimension outside of time and space. And that would perfectly track with who the Celestial Toy Maker is. He certainly seems to have the abilities to do that. And there's another thing, which again, this is small, but I'll bring it up. So in the Celestial Toy Maker, the TARDIS, unsurprisingly, is referenced a lot. But the way it's talked about implies that the toy maker and even his creations, like his servants, they know what a TARDIS is.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that. I don't think that was deliberate on
Yeah. Okay.
the writer's part of the original story. I think that was
Oh,
just a bit
sure.
of a lapse in sort of memory or canon consistency. But
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if RTD looked back and sort of did a bit of retconning and say, okay, well, he obviously knows what a TARDIS is. Maybe he is, if he's not a Time Lord, maybe he's at least familiar with Time Lords. He's familiar with the Doctor. So I think that adds a tiny bit more credence to this theory of the Toymaker being some sort of
Time Lord.
very powerful Time Lord, like an
Okay.
Omega sort of figure.
Okay. So is your first prediction that the Toymaker is
Yes.
revealed to be a Time Lord? Okay.
Yes.
It's a Time Lord. Okay. Bearing in mind that we might decide that some of these point values go into the thousands or even the millions, I think.
I think.
Well,
Did we break a million last time?
I think one of us hit a million. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
one of my ones. I think the last one was
Sure.
wild.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give this one 250 points.
Sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if they leave the Toymaker's origins nebulous to try and mystery a bit more, but they
Sure.
might also delve a bit deeper because we do have 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So I think 250 is about right.
Yeah.
I'll
Sure, that's
do
fair.
my first prediction now, and for
Uh-huh.
me, I'm expecting a really, really point total for this one. I think this one is all but guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when the 14th Doctor regenerates or leaves or however it happens, his last words are going to be something to the effect of, "Now I'm ready to go." I think they're going to lampshade the 10th Doctor's regenerative last word and try and really make sure, like, we close out this era and go, okay, it's locked in now. He's ready to go. He's not.
Yeah.
And also just
Mhm.
tie back to those iconic last words.
Yeah.
Because we know
Honestly.
we've already referenced what. Like,
Yeah.
we know that Russell T Davies is willing to lampshade his own dialogue. So I think this is all but guaranteed.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And because I've gone on record saying that certainly in the Moffat era, the sentimentality sort of annoys me. So I want to say, oh, does that seem a bit too schmaltzy? But then again, you just have to look at the ending of The End of Time. There was a 15-minute
Yeah.
goodbye to this Doctor with him standing there in the TARDIS with Latin choir saying goodbye 10, with him crying, saying I don't want to go. So yes, I think even if it was in the hands of another writer, it may not be hugely likely, but because it's RTD, because it's David Tennant, yeah, I think that's a pretty likely. So I'm going to give that I'm going to give that a 25. Yeah.
Wow. It's a tenth of the Toymaker prediction about being in time.
Maybe
But
I really
fair.
fucked it all up when I gave that prediction that you had to give a million points
No,
last
no,
time.
it's fine. But I generally think that's about right. Like I said, this is all but guaranteed to me. Especially because I think that trying again with David Tennant, he'll want a more because the Tenth Doctor's Regeneration is like the only one in the series history that was genuinely played purely for emotion and designed solely to make the audience cry. And I think they were going to want to give that a redo and make it a bit more of a triumph Eccleston-esque regeneration this time, where it's like, don't be sad. You've had 3 episodes with this. He's going now. Be happy for the future. He's ready to go. Embrace.
Yeah, and that would make sense.
Yeah. All right. What's your second prediction?
This is a small thing, and I don't know how likely it is, but anyway, this is how I've written it. There will be a Moffat-style montage of all the previous Doctors shown at some point, likely at the end. I mean,
as in like with past footage and that.
Yes, with past footage.
Okay.
I mean, I say that mainly because it's the 60th anniversary. I imagine that they would want to sort of pay tribute to the heritage as much as they can. And I think it sort of fits because I suspect what this story is going to be. It'll be like a sort of a changing from the old guard to the new guard. And I think having clips from classic stories in particular and sort of seeing how it changes to the modern era, that may sort of help with that. Having said that, I don't know if that seems a bit too on the nose for RTD or even what he wants to do with this story, but it's just a It's a suspicion I've got.
Right. And it wouldn't surprise me because I think we're both in agreement that it's very this is going to turn into a massive multi-doctor story in the third act.
Yeah, I don't think so. Again, this is not written by Stephen Moffat, so it's
No,
not. That's unlikely to happen.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's. I guess I could see that. I think I'm going to give that. I think I'm going to give that 400.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, neat.
Sure. I'll go a little bit out of order because I also
That's fine.
concerning past doctors.
Sure.
So I think if it's appropriate to bring it up now. And look, given what I just said about past doctors showing up, this is going to. But this is one of my big swings for the fences for a massive point total.
Mm-hmm.
And it ties back to sort of implied history with the toy maker that you brought up throughout the episode. I think it's possible, and again, not entirely likely, but possible, that as the Doctor is describing his past with the toy maker, we get a sequence of scenes, new scenes, by the way, featuring previous Doctors locked in battle with Neil Patrick Harris's toy maker. So we get a scene where Matt Smith's Doctor in the past encountered the toy maker in some way, or Paul McGann's Doctor in the past encountered the toy maker. And that which could lend itself towards like retconning, as you said, I think before, the toy maker's history with the Doctor beyond just a one-off thing. To maybe like they did have a bit more of a they did have like unseen encounters with each other throughout the history of the show.
Well, that's the thing, because they make it pretty clear in the Celestial Toymaker story that the Doctor and the Toymaker had met before that. The Doctor and the Toymaker knew who each other were, because the Doctor knows sort of the rules of how the Toymaker operates. Okay. So them having a history, I think, is quite likely. As to whether it kept up after the first Doctor and these just adventures we didn't see, I don't know. But
well, before you give this a point total. Yeah. Again, I want to go to bat for this a bit.
Sure.
If we remember back when they were filming this, there were photos that we saw of Matt Smith with the 11th Doctor haircut.
And
a lot of people thought this is confirmed he's coming back. And again, I don't think it's going to be in the sense of, he tags along with the 14th Doctor throughout a significant chunk of the story. It's not going to be multi-Doctor in that way. But if it ties into this, that would make some kind of sense.
Yeah.
Again, I'm purely saying this because I want the points. I don't actually know how likely it is.
Yeah. Look, I'll put it this way. I don't know if it's terribly likely, but I think it's more likely than you may think.
Okay.
With that in mind, I'm going to give this.
We'll put it this way. I gave montage of previous Doctors using 400 points. Do you think that's more likely, or this is more likely?
I think my one is probably a bit more likely. So I'm gonna. I'll probably give yours. Let's say 550 points.
I'm happy with that.
Sure.
Okay, prediction number 3 from you. What's it going to be?
I sort of flagged this earlier. Donna will sacrifice her life to save the day, but not in a cheap, unpleasant way that goes for the old, Doctor sacrifice play. And
so you think it's going to be a genuine death? Like they're not going to pull a Rose and go, "This is how I died." Well, you're listed as dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. It's not going to be like that at all.
Okay.
I think it'll be Donna making a, pardon the pun, noble sacrifice to save the day. Possibly to save the Doctor, maybe to save her own family. That I think would all track with Donna's character arc in the show, because even though she's lost these memories, I think the instincts of adventure and compassion that sort of were honed with her adventures with the Doctor, I think that would set her up quite well to want to make this sort of decision. And that's not even counting if she might get all her memories back, which is possible. So, so I think, Donna sacrificing her life to save the day, I think that's possible.
Sure. I think that would be a, depending on the situation, I think that could be a really effective ending to all this.
Yeah, it'd be a risk if they took it. They would need to do
certainly a
it.
risk. It would
They need
certainly
to do
be
it
a risk.
carefully.
Because I imagine that there would be quite a lot of people, no matter what, if they did this, who would say, "Why did you bring her back just to kill her?"
Yeah.
So I think it would
Yeah.
have to be like really handled the right way.
For sure.
I am gonna give this. I think I'm gonna go 500.
Sure.
I think this one, I think is right down the middle because I have another. I have a. Both of these are fairly similar in terms of their likelihood.
Mhm.
Let me put it this way: the Donna's ending, I think it's going to be one of these. Either it's going to be your prediction where she's going to sacrifice, or she's going to have a happier ending. I think she's going to keep her memories, but they're going to find a way for her to do that without dying.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: the one thing they absolutely cannot do is go back to the way it was beforehand.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't.
Cannot bring Donna into this just to have her end the same way she ended, because that's a waste.
Yeah, for sure.
And I cannot think of a third possibility for how they would end it.
Yeah.
So it's got to be one of these two, right?
Yeah. Yes, I would think so.
Yeah. So I think what's most likely to happen, I think, is they're going to for her to keep her memories, but not retain all of that Time Lord knowledge that she got killing her.
Sure.
They're going to find some clever way of getting around that. Like maybe the Doctor offers the toy maker like a deal where it's like, I can either like completely obliterate you from history and like kill you essentially, or you restore my friend without killing her and I'll let you go and we'll deal with this again some other time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Give me some points. What do you reckon?
Sorry, no. Can you just say that again? That you cut out a little bit before and I didn't get it. So is that your prediction that they will that they'll find some way to help her survive, but to erase sort of some of her memories and
no, I think
others.
I think her ending is going to be that she's allowed to keep her past with the Doctor, but they're going to find some way to do that and kill her
without killing her. Okay. Yeah. No. Honestly, I think that's pretty likely. In fact, I think that might be a bit more likely than Donna sacrificing herself or in some other way dying. So I'll give that 400. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Neat. All right. Fourth prediction.
Yep.
You?
According to the TARDIS wiki, Beep the Meep is a major galactic criminal.
Yep.
So I suspect he's going to have a similar backstory here. I mean, they're basically foreshadowing it. He's certainly being hunted by these Wrath warriors.
Yeah.
But it may lead to a redemption arc. Because in terms of galactic criminal, I don't know how bad they're going to make him. As a criminal, because that could it could be a fairly broad thing. But like I read that he got locked in a prison for 3,000 years, but then he got released on parole after only serving 15 years, and then he went to Earth to get his spaceship.
God, I love the extended universe is so funny.
Yeah, it's kind of great. So again, like you wonder how sort of seriously to take this character, because he's got a design that's very kind of cute and very almost Ewok-like, I suppose. But that is sort of kind of the point. He's way more dangerous than he looks. So if he's this sort of intergalactic war criminal, if he's committed, I don't know, like war crimes or something, you wonder, well, should he have a redemption arc? But then if he's not as bad but still has quite a bit of a disturbing past, can a redemption arc work? But I think, I don't know, it feels like an interesting avenue that RTD would go down. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, much like the Donna ending, there's two ways this can go. Beat the Meat gets a redemption arc, or Beat the Meat turns out to be way more vicious than he looks and is shown to be like the big bad of at least episode 1 and is not
Hmm.
That's the point, because he looks so cute and ridiculous.
Yeah.
What am I going to give that? I think I'll give that. I'll go 350 for that one, I think.
Sure.
Because I think, especially with this design, I think maybe it's going to be a bit of a mark for Doctor Who. So I think they're going to want to steer away from going too gruesome in this interpretation.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
Okay. Here's my next prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And admittedly, this is more hopeful on my part than actually, like, legitimately thinking this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at this new unit, we're going to see
Martha.
Martha Jones, I think, is going to be working for UNIT in these specials.
Was she in the other dimension at the end of?
No, she wasn't. She was with Mickey, but by that point, Mickey come back to our.
Okay, yeah,
regular
that makes sense. That makes sense.
I think because her ending with Mickey was they've gone freelance.
Yeah.
But I think that in the spirit of tying up stuff from the previous Russell T Davies era, I think it would be nice for Russell T to, like, confirm. No, Martha did get her. Before being shown to be with Mickey, she was set up to be with Tom Milligan from the season. And then on a dime, she switched over to Mickey. So it would be nice to, like, get that. She's at UNIT. She's still fighting the good fight. And we don't have to see Noel Clarke because he did some problematic things. But we can see Reimaginment. Yeah. And again, that's just another thing from the RTD era to, like, especially if we are, like, sort of starting afresh with Ncuti, it'll be a nice thing to see Martha here and then go, right, that's it. That's all the major characters from. We've seen them now. They've had their endings. Now we can focus on new stuff.
Yeah, again,
that's really my only. That's really my only justification for this, because again, I don't know how.
Sure. Yeah, the as I said, the changing from the old guard to the new guard, that would track, I think. Yeah, again, I think it's one of those things where I don't think it's hugely likely, but more likely than you may suspect. So I'm going to give that. I think I might give that 700. Cool. Yeah. All right.
Final predictions.
Yes. So I think
this is what got insane last time.
I don't think it'll be too insane, but I think that the Toymaker will create like have certain parts of the episode be like weird sort of dreamscapes where the Doctor wonders, oh, am I dreaming? Is it reality? You know, at certain points in the episodes at least. Again, maybe that's not terribly wacky, but, you know, there you are. I mean, again, it would track, I suppose, with him sort of creating whole worlds. But that sort of maybe the blurring between dream and reality, that, you know, they may be able to play around with that a little bit. So yeah.
All right. So what's the prediction?
That the Toymaker will, at certain points in these episodes, create like a dreamscape, and the Doctor will have to question whether this is reality or whether he's dreaming.
Okay, so like sort of like how we see the massive Toymaker in the sky.
Yeah, like he's
to a level where it's like, is any of this, like, legitimately?
Yeah. Again, for at least some of it, at least, because creating like hallucinatory, almost Alice in Wonderland dream worlds, that feels like something the Toymaker would certainly try to do. And he, again, given what I've learned about him from the Celestial Toymaker story, that he definitely has enough power to do stuff like that.
Okay. I think I'll give you 150 for this one.
Sure.
I don't think this is terribly unlikely.
Yeah, that's fine.
Now, this is the one that I rewrote mid-episode,
Mm-hmm.
Based on what we were talking about with retcon, the Chris Chibnall era.
Yeah.
So, this is my last prediction. And I'm expecting a huge ass point total for this.
Sure.
So, the way the third special is going to end is not with David Tennant regenerating at a Ncuti Gat, but it's going to end with Ncuti Gat waking up on Earth. It's going to be completely separated from anything we've seen. And it's going to be revealed that everything that happened in the Chibnall era didn't happen. everything that happened in the Chibnall era was a Toymaker. And what actually happened in our reality is Peter Capaldi regenerated into, fell out of the TARDIS, fell to Earth, and immediately regenerated into Shooty Garbo. I basically chose the most insensitive retcon,
Uh,
and I made a prediction. This is what would be described as retconning the Chibnall era to an insane degree.
yeah, this would be
Especially if they were to take 3 entire special episodes with David Tennant. But imagine that. Imagine the Toymaker in the last episode revealing that all of this was fake. And going through, why didn't you see the signs, Doctor? You chose to subject the Master to years of torture. That doesn't sound like you. You're the most important figure in Time Lord history? You believed that? This was all a game. I had to make it, and I thought you'd pick up on it, but I had to make it super obvious that it was me in the last few days, bringing Donna Noble into this and become a massive punk figure in the sky.
Oh, God.
This is how I made you pick up on it. Are you kidding me? The Flux happened. That was me. That wasn't real. How could you? That was real. You went through the Flux and then decided to restore the universe.
Yeah.
That was out of character. You didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, well, it would explain all those contradictions to the canon, because...
It would.
Because you even said, your viewing of the Revival era is more consistent than mine, but that the Timeless Children thing completely ignored whole huge sections of canon and history. It just completely swept them to the side to make room for this weird adventure with timey-wimey Jesus. It was, very bizarre.
I think the more egregious thing was it ignored things that season itself established.
Sure.
Because they established, because it was mainly with Ruth's Doctor. Ruth's Doctor is shown to travel in a TARDIS box, which could only happen if Ruth's Doctor came after William Hartnell. But then we're shown, no, she in fact comes ages and ages before, and that in fact might not even be the same TARDIS, and yet it looks like a police box.
Yeah.
And that, again, could be a little clue from the Toymaker, being like, how did...
Yeah. Like...
Points, please!
You know what?
I'm just cooking the hornet's nest with this one.
Look, I know I've said this before with your predictions. Don't get me wrong, that is batshit wild, but I think it is slightly more likely than you may be expecting.
You're insane.
No, I hate that I have to say that, and what I mean by slightly likely, I mean like really slightly likely, like it's not going to happen.
Sure.
But theoretically, it's more possible than you may be imagining. With that being said, I'm going to give this, I'm going to give this 990,000 points.
990,000?
Yep.
That seems fair. I'll be interested to look back at what our million prediction was last time. Stacking that up.
Yeah, it was the really weird one. Oh, actually, it was a similar thing. I think I said that the Master reveals that I think that it's all been a dream, and that it was just the Master fucking with the Matrix to confuse the Doctor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Timeless Children thing was so. Mundy, this would be even more insane because that would ignore an entire entire Doctor's run. So,
an entire showrunner as well.
You know what? I think because of that, I think I am going to increase my number here because that's even more insane than my one. So I'm going to give that 1.1 million.
That's what I was shooting for.
Yeah, 1.1 million.
I got the most insane prediction we've done so far. That's going to take some beating. That's going to take some beating.
Oh, God.
I think the only thing that could probably beat that is... And then they revealed that the entire thing was a dream, and in fact, Ncuti Gatwa is the first Doctor.
Shut up, Cuff.
Oh, for the 60th anniversary, we're really celebrating by retconning all of it. We've been recording for 2.5 hours. I think it shows by this point.
I think it does. I think it really does. Goodness
Oh, Christ.
gracious me.
Yep. So this was the first of our special episodes. I don't think we have locked in yet with like our schedule what the next one is going to be. We have a few, but stay tuned for next week and the weeks beyond, where we're going to do 3 more, if my scheduling is right. Special episode to the release of the 60th anniversary specials, followed by weekly reviews of each episode. Schedule. I don't think we have stone release dates yet.
But they presumably, like, they would end on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either end or start.
Yeah. Mind you, would it work if they started then? Because I've got the Christmas special coming up.
I don't
maybe
know.
it would.
I don't know. It just depends.
Yeah. Either way, we'll be here and we'll be the two who's reviewing.
Yep. So excited.
Yeah, I think after so long, and I know, Cuff, that you have been unimpressed with the Tribunal era, but you rightfully pointed out, by my particular sensibilities, we haven't had a really great era of Doctor Who in over a decade, so it'd be really great if we could get back to some solid stories. But either way, I'm very excited. I think the future of the show is bright. I'm really excited for Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. I think it's going to be great. And yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited for as a Who fan right now.
Definitely. But until next week, I'm Alex.
I'm Fitz.
And I don't know if Destiny exists, but if it does, it is heading for the 2 Whos.
Well said.
I just thought I'd go enigmatic there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.